Okay, so you want to own an auto repair shop. Grease-stained coveralls, a waiting room with bad coffee and stacks of older magazines, a mechanic who's been fixing the same neighborhood's cars for 20 years. It's about as far from exciting investment as a business gets, at least on the surface, which turns out to be exactly the point. Nobody daydreams about owning a mechanic's shop the way they daydream about owning an airport or a casino. And if you ask most people to guess which businesses institutional investors are excited about right now, a corner garage wouldn't make anyone's list. And that's exactly why what's actually been happening in this industry over the last few years is so strange. Because right now, Wall Street private equity firms are pouring billions of dollars into buying up ordinary auto repair shops, the kind with a single bay and a hand-painted sign, at a pace that would make you think they discovered a gold mine hiding behind the oil change counter. This might genuinely be the one video on this entire channel where the twist isn't that the business is secretly a trap. It's the far more surprising twist that the business is secretly a much better deal than anyone driving past it every day would ever guess. Before we get to why institutional money suddenly cares about your local mechanic, let's start with what it actually costs to get into this business in the first place, before any of the roll-up strategy or Wall Street interest enters the picture at all. A single independent shop, the kind with a couple of lifts and a handful of technicians, can be bought for a modest sum relative to most of the assets this channel usually covers, often trading somewhere between 20% and 40% of its trailing 12 months of revenue, or roughly 2 to 4 times what the industry calls seller's discretionary earnings, the profit left over after paying the owner a fair salary. Building one from scratch means equipment costs for lifts, diagnostic scanners, alignment machines, and specialty tools that can run into the hundreds of thousands of dollars before you've hired a single technician, plus real estate in a visible, accessible location, which in many markets now carries a genuine premium of its own on top of the operating business. Not every shop is playing the same game, though. At the bottom is the classic single-location independent, usually owner-operated, where the owner is also often turning wrenches alongside 1 to 3 technicians. One level up is the small regional operator running 3 to 5 locations, sharing back-office costs, parts purchasing power, and a technician bench across multiple shops. At the top of the ladder now sits something that barely existed in this industry a decade ago: the private equity-backed platform, a company built specifically to acquire dozens or hundreds of shops, standardize their operations, and eventually sell the whole combined entity to an even bigger buyer. Names that would have meant nothing to an ordinary driver a decade ago now control meaningful chunks of the market. National tire and service platforms, collision consolidators, and franchise networks have all been actively acquiring independent shops at a pace that's meaningfully expanded the pool of realistic buyers for a shop owner looking to sell. The Big Five collision consolidators alone now operate more than 4,000 locations combined, controlling over 13% of total shop count nationwide, but capturing nearly a third of total industry revenue, because scale in this business translates directly into negotiating leverage with insurers, parts suppliers, and lenders that a single independent shop simply can't access. Industry analysts estimate the total addressable market for collision repair alone at somewhere around $46 to $48 billion a year in the United States, projected to keep growing through the end of the decade, which is exactly the kind of large, fragmented, recession-resistant market that makes private equity firms sit up and take notice. Here's the part that quietly separates the shops that get bought for a premium from the ones that struggle to sell at all, and it's not the building, the lifts, or even the customer list. It's the technician roster. The industry is dealing with a severe, well-documented shortage of qualified automotive technicians, with tens of thousands of annual job openings nationwide that the pipeline of new certified techs simply isn't filling. That scarcity means a shop with 2 or 3 ASE Master Certified technicians who've been with the business for years is worth meaningfully more than an identical shop with a rotating door of inexperienced hires. Because buyers aren't just purchasing a building full of equipment, they're purchasing the guaranteed ability to actually get cars fixed on time every day without a staffing crisis threatening to shut down half the bays. So here's the first lesson nobody tells you when they picture owning an auto repair shop. You're not really buying a garage. You're buying a roster of trained humans who are currently in short supply everywhere in the country, and whoever controls that roster controls the value of the entire business. Say you've got a shop up and running. Here's where it gets interesting, because the way a repair shop actually makes money is more layered than a single hourly labor rate suggests. The first and most visible layer is labor itself, charged out at rates that nationally run somewhere between $90 and $150 an hour depending on the market and shop type, a number that's climbed steadily as both technician wages and general operating costs have risen. The second layer is parts markup, the margin built into every component sold alongside that labor, which for a well-run shop can rival or exceed the profit generated by labor alone. The third layer, and this is the one that separates a hobby from a real business, is recurring commercial and insurance-driven revenue, fleet maintenance contracts with local businesses, and for collision-focused shops, direct repair program relationships with insurance carriers that steer a steady, predictable stream of accident repairs to a shop rather than leaving it to hope walk-in customers show up. The fourth layer is maintenance plans and service reminders that turn a one-time oil change customer into someone who returns on a schedule for years. The same subscription-style logic that keeps a mall's season pass holders coming back on slow Tuesdays. None of that sounds bad so far. There's a fifth, less tangible layer worth mentioning too. Goodwill, the trust and reputation a shop builds over years that shows up nowhere on a balance sheet, but can still add real dollars to a sale price. Industry rules of thumb suggest goodwill alone can add somewhere between 10 and 30% on top of a shop's base earnings-based valuation, meaning a shop valued at $300,000 purely on its numbers might justify an additional $30,000 to $90,000 simply because of strong customer retention, a great location, or exclusive vendor relationships built up over decades. It's one of the only parts of this business where simply being trusted, being the shop a family has used for 3 generations, translates directly into cash value at the moment of sale. Now here's the other side of the ledger, and it's the part that makes this business genuinely hard to run well, even though it's fundamentally a good one. Technician compensation is the single largest cost most shops carry, with a fully loaded cost per technician, wages, benefits, payroll taxes, and training, running somewhere between $3,000 and $7,000 every single month per person, depending on experience and certification level. And every technician on the payroll needs to generate a meaningful multiple of their own cost in revenue. Industry benchmarks suggest something in the neighborhood of $170,000 of annual revenue per employee before they're actually contributing to profit rather than just covering their own seat. Real estate costs have climbed too, especially for shops in visible, high-traffic locations that customers actually trust enough to pull into. Diagnostic equipment now has to keep pace with increasingly complex, computer-dependent vehicles, meaning the scanner and software subscriptions a shop needed a decade ago are already outdated, and staying current is a recurring cost, not a one-time purchase. And here's the part that makes ownership genuinely exhausting for a lot of independent operators. The value of the entire business is often tangled up with how much of the actual work the owner is personally still doing. A shop where the owner is still turning wrenches 10, 15, 20 hours a week isn't just tired, it's structurally worth less, because a buyer has to price in the risk and cost of replacing that owner's labor and expertise the moment the sale closes. This shows up directly in how these businesses get valued, and the gap between an owner-dependent shop and a professionally managed one is enormous. According to research on shop valuations, transitioning a business from an owner personally working in the bay to a manager-run operation with an existing team handling daily operations while the owner works 10 to 15 hours a week on strategy and vendor relationships instead can increase a shop's value by 30 to 60%, even before revenue changes at all. A shop generating identical profit can be valued at a fraction of another shop's price purely because of who's actually doing the work day to day. Multiply that dynamic across an entire multi-shop platform, and you start to understand why private equity firms have gotten so specific about which shops they'll actually buy. They're not just buying revenue, they're buying operations that can survive without any single irreplaceable person. Run the actual numbers on how dramatically the multiple shifts with scale. A single independent shop generating under $1 million in seller's discretionary earnings typically trades somewhere between 2 and 4 times that number, largely to individual buyers using small business financing. Grow that same operation to 3 or more locations with $750,000 or more in EBITDA, and the buyer pool suddenly includes private equity consolidators willing to pay 4.5 to 6 times earnings, because the platform is now large enough to plug directly into their existing operational infrastructure. Keep growing to a genuine platform-scale operation. 5 or more shops with $1 million or more in EBITDA and a stable technician bench, and multiples can climb into the high single digits, sometimes 9 times earnings or more. That means the exact same underlying profit, $1 million of annual earnings, can be worth anywhere from roughly $2 million to $9 million or more, depending entirely on how many locations it's spread across and how dependent the operation still is on any one person. Scale isn't just convenient in this business, it's worth literal millions of dollars in valuation on paper. To understand how this plays out at scale, it helps to look at what's actually happened in the industry over the last 2 years. Starting in late 2023, more than $9 billion of capital flowed into the collision and general repair industry, largely through debt refinancing and recapitalization of the largest existing consolidators, spread across a handful of major transactions. More than 120 private equity firms have reportedly approached industry advisory firms expressing interest in launching their own acquisition platform in this space. And where it used to take a firm willing to write an enormous check to even get in the door, smaller private equity firms have increasingly started buying platforms of just a handful of shops as their entry point, then growing from there through what the industry calls a roll-up. Acquire several shops, combine their earnings and operational scale, professionalize the management so it no longer depends on any single owner, and eventually sell the larger, more valuable combined entity to an even bigger buyer a few years later. It's the same playbook that's reshaped industries as different as dental practices and HVAC contracting. And auto repair is simply the latest sector, large, fragmented, and non-discretionary enough to attract that same institutional appetite. This is the structural pattern sitting underneath the whole industry right now. A single shop with $1 million or more in annual earnings and a stable certified technician bench can command a meaningfully higher valuation multiple than a smaller shop with identical profit but a shakier team, simply because it's large enough to plug directly into a consolidator's existing platform. Shops with 2 or more ASE master technicians on staff clear a real premium over shops with none, because buyers are explicitly paying for a stable, trained roster, not just a set of financial statements. Meanwhile, thousands of smaller single-location shops that never reach that scale or never solve the technician retention problem simply close their doors every year without ever finding a buyer at all, which is the quieter, less visible flip side of the same consolidation story making headlines about billion-dollar roll-ups. It's worth sitting with that contrast for a second. The same underlying industry-wide dynamic, private equity chasing scale and stable technician benches, is simultaneously making a small number of well-run multi-shop platforms worth fortunes while quietly pricing thousands of one-owner shops out of a dignified exit altogether. There's a broader shift happening underneath all of this too. The technician shortage isn't a temporary blip, it's a structural feature of the industry now, driven by a generation of young workers who weren't pushed toward trade careers the way earlier generations were, colliding with a car park that keeps getting more complex to service every single year, as vehicles add more computers, sensors, and electrified components. Government labor statistics estimate tens of thousands of automotive technician job openings every single year nationwide just to keep pace with retirements and growth. A gap the current training pipeline shows little sign of closing anytime soon. At the same time, insurers have become an even more central gatekeeper of demand than they already were, particularly on the collision side, where the large majority of repair work is paid for by an insurance company rather than the car owner directly, meaning a shop's actual demand often depends less on how good its reputation is with the general public and more on whether it holds a direct repair relationship with the right carriers. Electric and hybrid vehicles are quietly reshaping which repairs generate revenue at all, since they need less of the routine maintenance work, oil changes, exhaust repairs. That's traditionally filled a shop's slower weeks, even as they introduce entirely new categories of expensive, specialized diagnostic and battery work that most independent shops aren't yet equipped to handle. Shops that invest early in the training and equipment needed to service electric vehicles are positioning themselves for a real advantage over the next decade, while shops that don't may find an entire growing category of vehicles they simply can't service at all. So does owning an auto repair shop actually work as a business? The honest answer, unlike most of what this channel usually covers, leans genuinely positive. But the gap between doing it well and doing it poorly is still enormous. In the optimistic scenario, you run a professionally managed shop with a stable, certified technician bench, recurring fleet or insurance-driven revenue that doesn't depend on unpredictable walk-in traffic, and an operation that functions smoothly whether or not you personally show up that day. In that world, the business commands a strong valuation multiple, generates dependable cash flow year-round, rather than the brutal seasonality that's plagued nearly every other business this channel has covered, and represents exactly the kind of asset private equity platforms are actively competing to acquire. Run the numbers on a well-run 3-shop operation generating $1 million in annual EBITDA. At a mid-range multiple for that scale, call it 5 times earnings, that operation is worth roughly $5 million to a potential buyer. And because the earnings themselves are recurring and diversified across 3 separate locations and technician teams, that valuation tends to hold up even if one shop has a rough quarter. Add fleet and insurance-driven revenue, covering perhaps a third of total volume, and the owner has genuine visibility into next year's baseline income before a single walk-in customer shows up, something almost none of the seasonal businesses this channel has covered can claim. In the realistic struggling scenario, you're the owner-operator still turning wrenches yourself most days. Your technician roster turns over constantly because you can't compete on wage with a nearby consolidator-backed shop that pays more and offers better benefits. Your equipment is aging and increasingly unable to service newer vehicles without expensive upgrades, and your revenue depends heavily on unpredictable walk-in traffic rather than any recurring fleet or insurer relationship. Run those same numbers. A single shop generating $400,000 of seller's discretionary earnings, but entirely dependent on the owner's own labor, might only command a multiple of 2 to 2.5 times that figure. Somewhere around $800,000 to $1 million, less than a fifth of what an equivalently profitable multi-shop platform would fetch, purely because of the ownership dependency discount buyers apply. In that world, even a shop that's profitable on paper can be genuinely difficult to sell for a fair price, because a buyer looks at that same balance sheet and sees an operation that's really just renting the owner's own labor and expertise back to them, an asset that evaporates the moment the current owner walks away. The difference between those 2 shops, sitting on the exact same street with the exact same square footage, can be the difference between an owner who gets a premium buyout offer from a growing regional platform and an owner who has to close the doors quietly when they're finally ready to retire, unable to find a buyer willing to pay real money for a business that only works because of one specific, irreplaceable person. A repair shop looks from the outside like one of the least glamorous businesses imaginable. Grease, noise, a waiting room television, nobody's watching. From the inside, in the shops that are actually thriving right now, it's become one of the more quietly attractive assets in the entire private equity world, precisely because it's boring, non-discretionary, and resistant to the kind of disruption that's upended so many flashier industries. People will always need their cars fixed, in a recession or out of one, and that single unglamorous fact turns out to be worth more to an institutional buyer than almost any amount of excitement. The garage isn't really the business. The technicians standing inside it are, and increasingly, so is whoever figured out how to keep them.